Well, hello there, and welcome back to Good in the Middle Way. I'm your host Rob, and I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome back. How have you been? I'm hoping this finds you well. Today we're going to be talking about faith in Buddhism, and what does that mean, and do I have to change my faith of origin to follow the middle way, to follow the Buddhist path, and to follow the Buddhist teachings? So, the short answer is no. You do not have to change your faith. You do not have to give up your God or gods to follow the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings. It is quite wonderful in that regard. As well as, you can, as you study it and read, the things the Buddha is telling you, like, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and, just getting into the basic details of this, you'll start to see like, oh, Jesus said that. Oh, Muhammad said that. Oh, Krishna said that, etc., etc. And, even if you're Zoroastrian, I don't know that as well, but I'm sure the wholesome good things that they're telling you would be telling you to do would be there. So I think it's one of the most beautiful, awesome, welcoming things to realize and even have access to some, structure that doesn't really require a lot. It's just very open. Granted, the things you're realizing and focusing on are very profound and can be very heavy. The suffering of existence is quite a lot, if not the heaviest of weights. But at the same time, you don't have to come in so rigidly. No one's yelling at you to do this, to do that. You have to be this way. I think the Ten Commandments, at least through my experiences, well-intended, but can be very, dogmatic, very hard, and then the guilt and shame that's kind of built into when you aren't being up to par, where the middle way doesn't really have that. There's no beating yourself up, there's no shame, there's just this moment now and later. And if this moment now you kind of fumbled, then, just do better later. Granted, there are some things that create really negative karma and, rightfully have some shame, and having proper regret actually is, it's in the books, it's in the tenets. If you have real true regret and proper, you can, purify and clean up a lot of karma too, as both, internally in your mind and as well as externally sometimes in the world. Making amendments and such and trying to fix things, which can, has its benefits. It's definitely should not be ignored or tossed out. But we must think of the Buddha like an instructor. At least that's what I tell a lot of people, as they've brought this question to me over the last decade, and I've seen it a lot. We see the Buddha as this instructor. We could see them, I used to say like a Taekwondo instructor, but now I'm kind of using a soccer coach instead, because the Buddha was definitely nonviolent. And so also maybe your golf or SAT teacher, whatever it may be, as you learn from your instructors and your professors, and you see that the knowledge they're giving you and these new skills they're honing and getting better, and you say that this is valid, this is true, this works, you gain faith and trust in your teacher. And this is how the faith works in Buddhism. This is how you connect with the Buddha or your direct guru, your direct teacher, your direct sensei, etc., etc. You start practicing these things and you're testing, you're seeing how they work, you're seeing if they work for you, if they don't, if they could be improved. And that is so big, right? Because, there's always this thing about trying again here in Buddhism, but there's how do I want to say it? We are following and having faith in these instructions, and we're coming to have trust that they work. It's not a blind faith. It's not an existential faith with questions that no one can really answer. And in regards to Buddhism and the big God question, as many people also bring that into the fold, I had asked Venerable Vreeland about this, and his response was, in the Tibetan system that is, and I think probably the others, but specifically that because you can neither prove or disprove its existence, you have to be open to the possibility. And the Tibetan system spends a lot of time in these like logical debates and so on, and that's kind of where that stems from. But it also keeps things very open. You know, when you're following the middle way in the Buddhist path, you're not trying to prove there's a God or there isn't a God. You're really just not concerned. You know, if it's there, great. If it's not there, okay. You know, if it's not working in the way that it's been written down and it's something like quantum physics kind of level stuff, cool, like whatever you're thinking. Because on the Buddhist path, you're not really concerned with that. You know, like you might spend your free time in that, but most monks aren't, and the benefit of such a thing and thought exercises, I mean, if it helps you, it helps you, but that's not the goal here. The goal with, you know, Buddhist analytical thought is recognizing suffering and getting towards the cessation of that suffering and from, you know, all these things that are causing it. That's kind of it in a nutshell. So, you know, with the Noble Eightfold Path, I'm sure you could find easily on Google, ChatGPT, Claude, like Claude these days. You know, but it's simple stuff: right speech, right livelihood, non-interference, right view. And what do all these things mean? And to be short about it, it's really has this component of mindfulness into it, and not to overuse that word right now, but as it's been becoming more and more overused, but mindfulness in this sense is having the recall and the awareness. It's really about the awareness there of, am I speaking kindly? Am I speaking truthfully? Am I speaking in a way that is productive? You know, to sit by and have idle gossip is not really helping anyone. In fact, you could be hurting someone. And so on. So this is kind of where we can start and to examine and kind of see where these things align with maybe your faith of origin, you know, and if you want to give up that faith and, you know, follow this in a way, like you won't be following this more, how do I say that? You know, you won't be like more in it. You won't be more Buddhist by like denying the existence of a God. Like that's, if you're doing that, you're in some other world. You're not practicing. Sorry to say, but that's really not it. Because your concern is suffering. And then if you really are generating the concern we've been talking about, you want to end the suffering of others. And so if something is helping them now, we don't know where they're at in their journey, in their path, and their karma. So, you know, let them be. As the Buddha himself had said, you know, there'll be many emanations. There'll be many different Buddhas appearing in different forms, in different languages, who will not be like, I'm the Buddha, follow the Buddhist path. They're going to show up to people and communicate, they're going to show up to beings and communicate to those beings what they need at that time and how they need it. And that one might say that, you know, many great bodhisattvas, which are like Buddhist saints, you know, they're reincarnating and emanating and doing these things to help us all along on our journey. But you don't have to give it up. That's the great thing. You know, you could just compare notes and see what works for you. And that's the last thing I wanted to say before I forgot, is the Buddha said to test everything. He said, literally, don't just take my word for it because I'm the Buddha and you respect me and you respect my teachings. You know, we've done some trial and error. Now you have trust in me and have faith in my teachings and have faith in the Dharma and the Dharma's teachings. But, test it. Don't just take it. You have to test it. You have to ask why. You have to figure it out and go through the logical internal process yourself. Otherwise, it's really just words on a page or in your mind. And then if it's not being integrated and you're not having that experience of processing it, you know, why is it actually like this? Why, you know, do I follow this? Why am I motivated? Otherwise, like you'll just connect to it on the real level, you know. It's okay for some time to hang out in the shallow area and like reading good things, doing good things, good acts, cool, you know, but eventually you want to even question the Buddhism things and the things they're saying and why is this actually good? What are the fruits of this? And then you'll logically come to certain conclusions that this is wholesome, this is good, no, this is the right way to live as a human being amongst my other human beings. And then, you keep raising awareness and so on. But yeah, so to answer that question, you do not have to give up your faith of origin. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama suggests, while open to anyone converting, he also had said at some points, to really just connect to the faith that you've been born into. You could find these things online, the written article, I think, and I don't know if there's a video, but, he's open arms to come in on the middle way, of course, but sometimes people get it in their mind that they have to reinvent the wheel, and it's really, you don't have to do all that, especially if you already know, you already have some training in something else, so it's okay. Also just do what calls to you. That's a big thing. Don't be judging too hard, and you stay fluid. It's all okay. Everything is okay as it is. Yeah, it's a little. I wanted to expound on that a bit, because things are not necessarily good in the world, and not that we shouldn't act, but it's it's a topic for another episode, really, because it's really important. And basically, I read a recent Tricycle good quote that they sometimes put up on, not sometimes, they're putting a lot of good content out, but it's basically by getting away from the valuing system of even good and bad, then everything's okay. And everything is right where it needs to be. The atoms are right where they're supposed to be sat, or, moving around how they should have been, based on their previous, wherever they were previously. They're not just teleporting, unless you're talking about that electron thing. But again, more things, different episodes, we will talk. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If it's helped you, maybe like, subscribe, only if you feel inclined. It just helps other people find us along the journey and help the algorithm along. But I'm just happy you're here with me now and for this journey. And so I wish you well. I wish you to be free of suffering. And I wish you all the conditions for the current happiness and things that you seek to maintain a more peaceful life. So with that, we'll end with our favorite breath. Peace in and peace out. Thank you so much. Until next time.